Come on, Twitch, give me some stream. Come on. There we go. Now we're live on Twitch. Oh, let's go tell the world about it. After quite a vacation, I'm back and streaming game dev again. Paste. Well, I am going to go ahead and hop on over here and post the same thing. And maybe we'll get started soon. It's been quite a while, so forgive me if I am a little bit slow and clumsy, since I am still running on San Diego time. So it's quite early in the morning. That's a good excuse, but it's 11:30. Still, I am off of my game just because I've been on vacation for so long. And I haven't really done any programming in the 12 hours since I got back. So, what are we going to do? We're going to hit play and take a look around. Yes, that was what I was going to do. We were going to develop this into a full-on actual build menu thing so that the things you collect actually matter. But before we do that, we need to figure out why some of these elements aren't actually working. The darkness that you see here is not in the released version. There's just a bug in Unity, the development, the IDE. It's busted. I don't know why. It's been busted for a while and they still haven't fixed it. Grab it. Okay. So what we're doing is we're just checking to make sure that the scanner and the grabber both work. With that in mind, with the return to the carrier, you can see that we have the floating debris guide and the cargo. We're going to want to fix up these so that they don't... This one's overly specific and this one's not specific enough. So I guess what we'll do first is we'll try and fix that so that those actually have a value beyond just such arbitrary elements. So in order to handle this, what we're going to want to do is check and see on why it gets called cargo, because it's not called cargo when I grab it. Let's go ahead and try that one more time and see when it changes. I think that when I actually put it away, maybe. So if we just rush on over there and take a quick look. This is more of a saunter. I didn't remember how short that was. All right, so now we're nice and close. If we pop on over to the ship itself, which is... there it is. We can zoom in. There it is over there with a light shining on it. Perfect. This is called spare part, and this is called spare part 1. So the problem is that at some point, they actually become called something else. And I think it's when we actually grab them. Or maybe when we put them away. So let's go ahead and check this out. Reach out. Oh no, wait. Yeah, for some reason they got called cargo, right? Let's back up and try it again. Of course, the arm is really finicky. It's half busted. So it's something that we'll have to fix eventually, but I think we'll leave it for now. Okay, so I wasn't watching whether or not it got its name changed right then. That was unfortunate, but let's go ahead and get nice and close. We get inside of this thing, we should be able to see whether or not there is a cargo spare part 1. So here it is. This is still called spare part 1, but for some reason it's being named cargo. So maybe I just have a typo in how it's getting stored. So if we... Okay, so there's actually no, there's nothing that actually pops up, so we'll have to just do this manually. We're going to go into our scripts, into our ship component scripts, and into our harvestable object, which is what this is. So the idea is that when we are actually collecting it, here it is. When we're adding to this, we want to make sure that we're adding the right element. So the references here are here. That's fine. Oh, it went away. God damn it. Here. Cargo target.name. There's the problem. Cargo target is the name of the bin we're putting it in, not the name of the thing we're using. So what we need to do is use the gripped.name instead. There we go. And the other thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to trim off the parentheses 1 on this debris boy. You see this spare part parentheses 1? So we're just going to want to make sure that we crop it so that that doesn't happen. So let's go ahead and just create a string here. String grip name equals gripped.name. If grip name dot contains int grip slice equals grip name dot index of open paren. If grip slice is greater than 0, then grip name equals grip name dot split. No, grip name dot substring. There it is. 0, comma, grip slice -1. We need to get rid of the space in front of it as well. I might have to make that -2. We'll take a look in a minute. Take Care 95 stopped in to say hello. Hello, long time no see. And then here we'll use grip slice. Grip name, my bad. Oh. And that way, we should now be able to actually pick things up instead of just hearing over and over cargo, because it's not all going to be cargo. In the long run, we'll have different kinds of things you can go and search for. Zoom. Stabonk. Let's start to grab this stuff. We're going to need to grab both because we need to test and make sure that the naming conventions are working. 1, 2. So here you can see it says 2 spare parts. It does not say 1 spare part and 1 spare part space. So it's configured correctly. So now what we want to do is make that research start to work a little bit better. So the research is coming from the scanner, this one. But I think that we're actually using a science target. Science target, there it is. Or maybe it's even in science itself. Here we are, research. So this is the problem. When we say scanned, we say if research does not contain key field, then research.add field. This part is not a problem because the science target is working fine. The problem is this is not the only place that this is being called. We're also calling it from other places that aren't a science target. And I can actually go ahead and look that up by finding other references. And these are all in science target, but this one is, they're not all in the same place. No, these are all in the same, So that's the only place that's, oh, we're getting add science. This is the problem. Find references to that. Here we go. So in the scanner, you can see that we're just saying if there's no science target, then add science target not name. We're going to go ahead and just default it to something specific, which we'll call materials. And that way we'll be able to just scan anything we want. And instead of saying you scanned 800 different things with random last names, it'll just say materials. It'll keep incrementing material counter. So let's pop on over, research some materials, and make sure it works. Crash. One down. Crash. Two down. Alright, so let's make sure that those are both materials. Oh, it says one materials research, so there is an issue, because it should say two. Let's look back at the console here. Let's make it so that when we actually record a science element, we just pop something up. So debug.log, adding science field value. Techcure says, thanks for your feedback on the track, by the way. I've improved a bit since last time, even though you're most likely not going to need it. Yep, sorry that I don't need music. It's just something that has bothered me for a long time. So I just went out and bought a whole bunch of music that I really like, and that's my plans. Only one of the elements, only one of the music sets is active right now, but there's like 5 or 6 more that I own, all of which are YouTube friendly and high quality, so I'm pretty happy with them, or I wouldn't have bought them. Let's go ahead and have this pop up something, so crash. Okay, so it doesn't actually say anything up there on the universe, so we're going to make it say something on that universe. We're going to make this a universe.say. And instead of putting it here, we'll put it up here. And down here, when we do this, we'll just go ahead and say add science field value. We don't need any of this. This is all duplicate stuff. And crash. Done scanning floating debris guide. The given key was not present in the dictionary. Oh, there we are. Just put it after this nonsense instead of before. So we'll go ahead and say science of field, and then we'll say plus, and then value, and then there we are. That ought to give us all of the things that we need to make this work. Ooh, I've been competing with some young kids in terms of voice, and my voice is kind of shot, but that's okay. We've got some stuff that we need to do today, and I'm gonna do it. Crash. Done scanning floating debris guide. Science of materials +1 at 1 point. We'll go over here and try it again. Crash. Two points. Hooray. So now we know that there's 2 points. If we return here, it says 2 points. I must not have finished scanning it the first time. That's fine. So, and now it's all working, but you know what we're going to do? We're going to go ahead and start to make it so that you have to buy the scanner in the first place. So what we're going to want to do is have a setup where things have to get built before they're allowed to be used. And we may have something where you can move stuff around, but that's for much later, if ever. For now, we'll just make it nice and simple. And so what we'll have is a new setup, which is a construction system. We'll put that in a new folder. And we're going to call this a constructible. The constructible is going to have a public static list string int, for, shouldn't even be a string int, should it? We'll make it bools for now. String bool for constructeds. No, why is it doing that? Oh, it's supposed to be a dictionary. There we are. New dictionary. There we are. So constructeds is just going to be something where it keeps track of all of the things we selected as constructed. Public static bool is constructed string key. If constructeds, you know what? We don't even need to make this a bool. We can just make it a list of strings. Because if it exists, it's been constructed. Otherwise, it hasn't, right? So if constructeds.contains key, so we'll just say return constructed.contains key. That way, we'll be able to tell whether or not something has been constructed. Down here, these are all static. Down here, we're going to have some non-static variables. Public string key required equals, and then we'll put in a tooltip. We'll disable this thing unless this key exists. And then down here in start, what we'll do is we will say that if the key exists, then we're fine, otherwise disable this. So if not is constructed key required, then gameObject.setActive false. What we'll want to do is maybe make an event out of it. Yeah, we'll make an event out of it. So public Unity event. I need to actually use the correct namespace. Public Unity event is constructed, is not constructed. So down here in start, we'll just go ahead and say, if it's constructed, then fire off that Unity event, is constructed.invoke, else is not constructed.invoke. And most of the time we'll be using this to just turn off the game object, but I can do that with the Unity event without any difficulty, so I'm not going to force feed it. So that works, except for, of course, that we currently don't have any way to set things as constructed. So what we're going to do is we're going to put in a public void debug construct. And what that's going to do is it's going to forcefully construct it. And the reason we're going to do this is so we can add it to the context menu. So for that, we'll just go ahead and say that constructeds .add key required, and then we'll say if it doesn't already have it. So if not is constructed key, you know, why don't we go ahead and make that a Boolean. Public bool is constructed. Get return is constructed. Key required. There we are. I'm not sure why it's barfing there. It's a different capitalization, which maybe some people don't like. Oh, there it is. So that's it there. Okay, so it's just constructed. So we're gonna say if not constructed, then constructeds.add. And then what we're gonna want to do is redo this part. Boom. So that should work. So it should, oh, we don't need to do it two ways. There we are. So that should work, and it should allow us to do some debugging when we need to do some debugging. So what we have now is a situation where we can turn off specific elements. If we pop on over into our ship, we've got this scanner here underneath the ship. And what we're going to want to do is set this up to be something that turns itself off based on whether or not it has been built. So we'll drop this constructibles in here. And what we'll do is we'll just set up the system to turn itself on and off, as you might expect, whenever it is triggered. So GameObject set active, GameObject set active. So now when we hit play, I'll go ahead and hit pause and hit play. It's gone. Oh my gosh. But what we can do is we can tell it that it should construct itself. There, it's back. So obviously the next step is to create a debug menu in our setup so that it will be able to get, oh, that was a mistake. Well, whatever. So that it will be able to get built. And we'll do that by popping on over to our other scene. This scene's done. So right now we've got this build menu which does nothing. As I recall, it does literally nothing. It just sits there. Oh, it does pop up this thing. Okay, so we'll go ahead and that building menu placeholder is what we will try to use here. Here it is, build menu. Turn it on. Clip. So with this here, what we're going to need to do is create some things that actually build. So what we're going to do is go into that same directory that we were just in, which is the construction system. We're going to want to create construction buttons. So this construction button is going to inherit from, not inherit from the button class, but require the button class. Like so. And obviously we're going to inherit the UI, and there we are. And then this is going to be public key, public string key. And then we're going to want to have a cost. Now the cost is going to have to be a dictionary because that's obvious, but we don't have any existing dictionary that can be serialized by Unity, which means that we can't simply have a dictionary. So instead what we're going to need to do is create a very, very simple struct. So public struct construction cost, public string key, public int amount. So we'll say public list construction cost. And it doesn't have to be a list, it can be an array. Construction cost array cost price. There we go. I don't need that part. It'll automatically happen. There we are. And so what we're going to want to do is during our either start or wake, we're going to want to disable ourselves if we are if our costs aren't there. But we need to do one more thing. When this constructed's changes, we're going to need to fire off some events. There's some event wrangling that we're going to want to deal with. And I guess we'll just put all those events right here since they affect this. There. So with that, we're going to go ahead and we don't need events. If it's just this, we can just do it using a live list. Public static list construction button live equals new blah. And then so void start awake live.add this void on destroy live.remove this. All right. So in start, what we're going to want to do is figure out whether or not we are awake. But we're going to want to do it in a way which can be redone later. So we're going to put it in a public void refresh. And then in start, we'll just call refresh. Perfect. We're also going to need a public void click, which is what the button will point to. So here in refresh, we're going to want to turn the button off if we are not able to be built. So how do we check and see whether we can be built? Well, we have a list of prices, and we're just going to go through and see whether those prices have been met. On the other hand, if our key already exists, we're also going to want to be disabled. So we'll check for both of those things. Bool ready equals true. And then what we'll do is we'll just first check and see whether our key exists. So if constructeds.contains key ready equals false. Else, or then we'll just go ahead and go through each of them. So for each construction cost cc in price. So here is the thing. These prices come from different places depending on what they are. So we're going to go ahead and create a switch statement for cc.key because each price comes from a different place. There's something with the default. We'll put that in later. We're also going to need metal. So case metal. We're going to go ahead and check and see how much metal we've burned, which I believe is in the welder, right? I haven't done this in a little while, so I have to look it up. It might just be in one of the basic setups, like the drawer. Oh, this should be in small helper scripts. So I can't remember where the welder is, and is it just a module damager? Is that it? Oh, there's no static there, so that's not it. Oh, that module damager is for the big ships. That's right. Now I'm remembering. So here's the cheap collider pusher, which is referencing the draw instance to base, which is I think what we actually need here. So draw instance to base. Open that up. There it is, burned metal. So that's what we're going to actually be tracking. When someone asks for metal, we're talking about burned metal. So let's go ahead and check that. If burned metal, if draw instance to base dot burned metal is less than cc dot amount, then ready equals false. On the other hand, there are a lot of things where we are going to want to check and see whether or not they are. So we'll go ahead and, instead of a switch, we'll do an if. So if cc.key equals metal, there we are. Otherwise, we're going to want to check and see, it could be science or it could be retrieved stuff. So if key exists, dictionary key exists, which is on our harvester arm, right? Harvestable object. Harvestable object. So we're going to have to include the ships directory using ship. If harvestable object dot collected dot key exists, contains key. There it is. Come on. cc.key. If, so here we actually want to make it so that it's, well, that's fine. We'll do it with a series of else's. If, if this dot cc.key is less than cc.amount, ready equals false. Else if, and then we want to check science. So that would be a science target. Research.contains key, cc.key. Same deal. If blah cc.key is less than cc.amount, ready equals false. Else, ready equals false. Perfect. So in that case, down here, we can just say that we want our usability to be equal to the readiness. So button B equals get component button B dot interactable equals ready. Easy as pie, right? So once we click, we're going to want to actually charge these fees. Oh, it looks like I got some things happening on, well, I guess it's fine. So here we're just going to do the same stuff, except for this time we're actually going to go ahead and reduce that amount. We're not even going to check and make sure that we have enough. We're just going to reduce it. like that. Else debug.log error. Huh? And we'll call it price with no match somehow charged. Because that should never happen. They should always be disabled. So there we are. We now have a series of things where we can set that up. However, after we click, we're going to want to do a refresh on all objects. So we're going to go ahead and call a global refresh function. Global refresh is going to be down here. Public static global refresh for each construction button CB and live cb.refresh. There we go. Oh, void. Oh, and we have to actually add the key. I forgot about that part. So let's go ahead and do that first. So constructible.constructeds.add key. Perfect. So that should work fine, except that right now our options menu is pretty crap. Our placeholder build menu is pretty crap. We've got this grid layout, which is a like a grid. So I guess for now that's fine. We'll keep it like that. But for this first options button, which is this guy, we're going to want to make sure that we have our builder set up here. And this key is going to be a scanner. But you can see that there's no price, and that's because we forgot to tell Unity that it can serialize this. So come on. There we are. And we're going to go ahead and make this a very basic setup where it just charges metal and it charges 50, right? And then we'll have the options text to actually contain all the info about it. So, scanner. L1 scanner. Yeah. So I guess what we're going to want to do is have a couple of different text boxes rather than just one. The second text box we'll just move down a little bit. Yep. And bring it up to the left. Yep. Robotic Sarcasm says, hi, doing UI stuff? I just started doing UI stuff. I was doing something related to UI stuff until like a moment ago. So what we're going to do here is make this first text button bold. And then this second text box, we're going to reduce the size and make it left justified. And then give it some details. So it will say scan for science and technology using this. 50 metal. Costs 50 metal. Right? Easy enough. And that should allow us to click that, and it'll pop up with that being something that we do. And we'll go ahead and rename this L1 scanner. We could use like an image, something pretty, but for now we're just going to go ahead and make it work. So the key here is scanner. We're going to go ahead and change this to L1 scanner. We're going to have to go back into the other scene so that we can edit the ship so that the setup has the correct keyword rather than, I think it's question mark right now, which is obviously not ideal. Come on, open. Oh, it's already open. So we'll just go on over to a ship here. Swoosh. There's our scanner. So if we pop into, I'll just copy these, not copy them, but just move these out of the cockpit itself. There we go. So here's our scanner. And the scanner is going to be, there we are. It's going to be using L1 scanner like this, right? There are going to be other things that we'll need to do. Like this L1 scanner actually needs to have a blocked key as well. It needs to have something where if a key exists, it still fires as unconstructed. So we're going to go ahead and put that in as an option here. Public string blocking key. There we are. So what we're going to want to do is check and make sure that the blocking key doesn't exist. So if is constructed blocking key, return false. There we are. Easy enough, right? That way what we can do is when we upgrade to the L2 scanner, we can just turn the L1 scanner back off. Perfect. So when we hit play, we're going to start with no scanner. You can tell because this will turn off. You can see in the upper right hand corner it's off. So that means that we can't scan anything. But what we can do is we can grab stuff, burn metal. So just as an example, if we run into this thing, previously we would have scanned it, but this time we're just going to bonk. No scanning is happening. So we have to buy the scanner. Let's grab some metal. This is going to be a little loud. Why isn't it grabbing metal? I may have broken the metal grabber somehow. Hold left mouse. I thought it was left mouse. So for some reason the welder isn't triggering. So we'll have to fix that. But I think I have enough metal just by default. Yeah, 100 metal slag. So here you can see we can build this L1 scanner. We click it. Oh, I forgot to hook it up. God damn it. When we actually click it, we want it to fire. So that's what we're going to have to focus on next. So build menu, and then the first L1 scanner. When we click it, have it click itself. Perfect. Go ahead and start from here this time, just because. Click. Boom. Now it's disabled, and we can launch. Let's pop on over to something and see whether or not the scanner works. It does not. So for some reason, this ship does not have the scanner working. Why is that? So here's the scanner. It's on. There it is. Why is it not scanning? Is there something inside of this? No, it's all working. Here's the scanner head, which is set up to take button 1 and should work. So why isn't it? Turn on debug. Unassigned source velocity of cheap collider pusher has not been assigned. Okay, so there's an issue with... I moved it, that's right. Okay, so what happened is when I moved it around inside the ship, I broke it. And it looks like I broke all of them. So we're going to need to fix both of them by going into the correct scene and just rearranging where the targets are. So if we take a look at this scanner, and we take a look at some of these interior objects, as a volume, spotlight, there's the welder. So there was a problem where it was not properly cheap collider pusher source velocity. Magnet, there it is. Source velocity is from the player ship. It's right there, right? Huh. That's interesting, because it's obviously there. It might be a different pusher. So if not source velocity, debug.log error name plus source velocity unassigned. That should help us figure out what's going on here. I think that if we play it from here, it's not going to work because we have to build the object first. I could force it to build, which I suppose would be fine, so that's what we'll do. Over here in the constructible, we'll just debug construct it, and you can see that it's now on. It should be working. And if I were to go in here, I should be able to scan stuff. Shaboom! It's not scanning. Why isn't it scanning? The scanner is just a very generic automatic setup. It is set up to fire on... This is call scanner 1. Oh god, I'm just an idiot. That's all the problems are. This isn't the scanner, this is the welder. This is the scanner. You moron. So now, let's go ahead and figure out what's going on with the real scanner rather than the welder. Oh, the welder didn't exist because it's working off of the same, the welder has the same prefab link. So I have a prefab problem where my prefab elements are conflicting. So when I changed one of them, the other one also changed. And that means that this also gets constructed right here. See that? That's not going to happen. It should just stay like this. All right, so now hopefully most of this stuff should work. So we'll go up here to the scanner and we'll debug construct it. And we'll just go ahead and see whether things work. Nope, nothing works. That's interesting. It should work. There might be a problem with the scanner because I moved it, but at least now that works. Alright, so there's something wrong with this scanner, and it's not triggering at all. If we look at the scanner head, here's a controllable ship system with fire on, so we're going to go ahead and turn that on. Here you can see that the variable source velocity has not been defined. Magnet source velocity is undefined. There's our problem. The cheap collider pusher for that needs to be the player's ship. There we are. That should be easy enough. The problem was that it was inheriting from a prefab, and the prefab was different than expected. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and go to the carrier, build the scanner, or launch again. Going to have some lighting issues, but that's okay. And now, because debug is on, we should get a steady stream of gibberish related to that object. We do not. It's on. Wait, this is the scanner? Why does the scanner have a magnet and stuff? Okay, so the scanner sharing that prefab really screwed some of these things up. So we're going to go ahead and delete all of these. We don't need them in the scanner. I should delete them while we are live. So, delete. Okay, the audio source is probably fine. There we are, because we're going to want to scan our audio source at some point here. Here's the scanner head, and for some reason, it's not firing. So here's a controllable ship system. We'll just remove that. Having them as prefabs bit me when they shared the same prefab elements. The problem is that I think we deleted the actual scanner part of this scanner. I think that I accidentally removed it when I built When I did at the very beginning, I screwed up and hit apply. Corp says, why is Unity so popular? Is it better than Unreal? Yeah, Unreal is good. Unreal is very, very good. If you're looking to make a first-person game, I would recommend Unreal. Unity has some advantages, but they're relatively minor these days. I use Unity just because I own it, and it's something I've been using for a while. I would say that if I had to choose which one was better, Unreal is better. So go ahead and use Unreal. One of the reasons I don't like Unreal is because you have to code in C++ instead of C#, and I like C# better. So here we have the scanner, which no longer has a scanner in it. So we're going to re-add the scanner element. So where's our scanner? There it is. Just drop that in. We can drop it right here on the element itself. It used to be that I would put it on the scanner head so that it could like move, but I don't think we need to do that. This scanner only scans when it is active. I think that gets overridden. I'm 90% sure that's overridden. So we're going to go ahead and open up the scanner and see how I coded it, because it's been a long vacation. So here in Awake, we set our property block. Here in Update, we override the default update. And I believe that that's an override. So let's go ahead and say override update. There we are. We don't want to just declare a new one, but basically it's a controllable ship system, and it probably shouldn't be because it doesn't have any controls. It's automatic. So I'm not sure that it needs to be a controllable ship system. Let's go ahead and make it back into a ship component, right? Is that just a default mono behavior? Let's take a look. Yeah, it's just a default mono behavior. So here in our scanner, it's a mono behavior. We don't need it to override anything. Void. There we are. Here in controllable ship systems, we do have a call for ready, and this is something we no longer need. So we're just going to go ahead and scan check with every update. And this should be fine. I don't believe it actually needs any of the controllable ship system stuff because it's automated. Corp says he's going to start to learn how to code, and he was about to buy a course on Udemy. He's drawn to Unreal and C++. Unity is popular because it has more low barrier to entry options. A good example of that is if you look at the asset store for both, you'll see immediately the sorts of focuses that are involved. Unity's asset store involves a lot of things that are aimed at either small teams, small games, or early on developers, young developers. Whereas Unreal's shop is a lot more game dev teams and professional game dev oriented. You can go ahead and take a look at each shop and see whether or not you understand the sorts of things each is better at. You don't have to buy anything, just look at the shop. Robotic Sarcasm is complaining about C++ and talking about the reason I don't use it very much. In addition, I just think C# is a more elegant language. But that's just me. Right, so the scanner should already be working. Let's take a look. No barf? Well, right now there's no scanner. Let's just go ahead and turn the scanner on. We are scanning the ship, apparently. So it looks like our scanner is not arranged so that it actually looks away from the ship. It looks like there's a problem where it is colliding with the ship. So here we can see that this is the raycast that's being fired off. But for some reason, the raycast is hitting the ship, even though the scanner has never hit the ship before, and it's not in a position where the ship should get hit. Well, it might be hitting itself, because it's no longer in the scanner head, right? So we're going to go ahead and move that into the scanner head and try it again. Corpse is asking if C# is slower than C++. Not really. If you're looking at the most hyper-optimized stuff, you're going to be looking at C either way. It's not going to be C# or C++. It's all in the compiler, really. It's still not... It's still hitting the player's ship. Well, we'll figure this out. So basically, if you wanted to get a faster thing, then it's both... The compilers for both C# and C++ do 99% of the work in making things faster, but both have caveats that you're going to have to learn. And C++ memory management is one of those caveats. So it's always going to be this trade-off where some things are good and some things are not great. So, you know, as you prefer, I suppose. So, for some reason, this is hitting the ship, and it might simply be because the ship is... it might simply be because of the placement of this object. So we're just going to go ahead and drop the scanner onto the audio source now, and try one more time. We're trying to get it to not scan the ship. Nope, it's scanning. Okay, so there's something screwy happening here. Corp says that he might do some reading on C++ memory management and see the issue and all that stuff. Well, memory management is always going to be an issue in all game dev. C++ does memory management a little bit differently than C#. But to be honest, if you learn a language, a C-based language, then you're 90% of the way to learning any other C-based language, whether you're learning Java or C# or C++. They're very, very close to each other. The concepts involved are identical. There's just some caveats with each individual language. So just go with your gut. If you think that Unreal is going to suit your needs better, absolutely use Unreal. That's just all there is to it. Later on, if you change your mind, you'll find that switching over to another dev system, whether it's Unity or whatever, is not really very hard because you know the basics of programming already. Why is it scanning the... Okay, well, it's no longer scanning the... Wait, it is scanning the ship. So there's an error here. Something is wrong with how this is actually scanning the ship. We're going to want to add in some widgetry so that we can see what the heck's going on. You see that this is actually happening. We got this on draw gizmos color blue, but it's just one little line, and I don't see it. Ah, it's pointed backwards. So the problem is that this is just pointed 180 degrees from the way it should be, which is fine. We'll just flip it 180 degrees. Come on. There we are. And move back into place. So it was probably attached to something else originally. This should work fine, though. Corpse is talking about built-in animation studio and blueprint system. Yeah, the blueprint system is definitely their strongest draw. Their blueprint system is extremely nice. I wouldn't say their animation systems are noticeably better than Unity's, at least not to me. Mechanim, which is the method for handling lots of animations in Unity, has some problems. But I don't really believe that the Unreal's result is substantially better. I guess that is... who knows whether or not that is true to you. And it could be that they've made more advances since I last tried it out. If you are learning coding from scratch, I might recommend that you do not start with either Unreal or Unity, just because they're very dense. If you are just starting out with the concept of coding, I might recommend something more like Game Maker. They will teach you the same concepts you're going to need, but in a much more approachable way. So, yeah, just recommend that. I'm going to go ahead and just remove this. Yeah, you should be able to get something for free. I actually don't remember. I think there is a free game maker, but I don't remember. If not, you should find some other system which allows you to make games for free and doesn't require coding right off the bat. Because they're all going to teach you how to code anyway. You need to code in order to make a game, but with those systems, you'll be coding in a way that is much more approachable to a new coder. So, worst comes to worst, you can always try RPG Maker. People will not play your game, but you will learn how to do the basics of coding. So, you know. Alright, so let's go ahead and adjust this setup here. This whole thing is going to be rotated around the pivot so that it's pointed straight up. Why is this control not actually taking? There we are. And I think that's fine. Let's turn the thing that disables it back on so that it can turn off. Good, it's off. So let's go ahead and grind some metal. This might be a little bit loud if it's working at all. It is, yay! So the next thing I want to do is add in a sound effect for when we're scanning. I want it to make like a "we're scanning now" effect. So I'm going to put on my headset. We have an audio source in here. It's actually what the scanner itself is attached to. And we're going to use a 2D audio source so that we can hear it regardless of where we are. And we're going to want to pick a clip. Let's go ahead and just choose some here. That is not a very scannery clip, but it might be the best I have. If I were to turn this pitch way up to like 3, it might work out okay. Let's go ahead and just tick it here so that we can just see if it sounds like a scanner. That'll be fine if I turn it way down, for now at least. It's kind of an annoying sound, though. Maybe there's another one that will work a little bit better. The problem is it has to be a looping sound. And I don't really have very many of those. I've got wind. Do you think a high-pitched wind would work? But we're already using wind for all of the engines, so it would be a very duplicative sound. We'll go ahead and just keep using this for now. We'll change it out later when we get annoyed with it. We'll turn off that play on awake. And then here in the scanner head element, we're going to add in some new events for when it turns on and when it turns off. Public, that's not how you spell that. Public Unity event. Start scanning. Stop scanning. And then down here in our scan check, we'll go ahead and actually set that up. So here we have change scan target, as you can see. This gets called whenever we change our scan target, so you're right. So we're going to want to go ahead and set this up so that it will work. So here is our if new target. If new target, then we're going to want to grab our audio source. Get component audio source dot play. We don't need that. That's all we need. But otherwise, we're going to want to turn it off. Let's try it out. Oh, I have to actually set that event system up. Right now, it's not doing anything. Oh, I just told it to play the sound. I didn't... Okay, so I didn't end up using the Unity events. Whatever. We'll delete them. It's easy enough to put them back in later. No, actually I do want the Unity events. Sorry. These are supposed to be Unity events rather than whatever else I've made them. So, is scanning now scanning? Start scanning. And this will be stop scanning. There we are. Pretty easy. And now what we can do is we'll set the events up to target that audio source. We don't want to hard code that because we're going to want to do a couple of other things like turn on a new light. So for that, we're going to just drop these in and tell it that the audio source should play, and that the audio source should stop. We're also going to add in a new light, which we'll go ahead and put inside the audio source just to make it easy to keep track of. Light. We'll set this up as a directional light, maybe? Yeah, that's fine. And we're going to want to have it be an unusual color, like blue-green. And that should illuminate quite a lot of our ship, as you can see. This is a directional light, which means it is not the light source I was actually looking for. I meant to say spot. And we don't want it to affect the whole ship. We just want it to light up in a way which is going to allow us to tell that something is being scanned. So we'll just do it like this. We'll turn off any sort of shadows or anything. We don't need any of that. And we'll make it pretty intense. And that should give us just a hint of lighting, which should let us know that there's a scanning happening. Just lift it up a little bit so we'll be able to see it a little bit better. Turn it off. And then here in the audio source, which we'll rename into ScanHead, our scanner proper, we will go ahead and add in that light, turn it on, and then turn it off. Like so. Now, obviously, we don't currently have a... oh, the call scanner turned on because I didn't tell it. Okay, good, good. So we don't have to go and do any debugging. Let's go ahead and try this out for scale here. I have the volume turned up very, very high. So this scanner might be too quiet. Nope, it's fine. So I'm going to want to do two more kinds of sounds here. We're going to want two more audio sources, one for failure and one for succeed. Now, in order to do that, we're going to need some sounds. So let's go on over into our audio directory and see whether we have any nice sounds. Nope, that's not a good one. Nope, that's not a good one. That's fine. That'll be our success. And now we're looking for something that sounds like a failure. But I don't have any real... That sounds like a failure. I don't have any real sound effects for this sort of stuff. I'm just kind of making stuff up. So we'll make that. We'll turn down the volume on that because it's really loud. And what we're going to want to do is create 2 new Unity events, on fail and on succeed. There we go. And what we'll do is we will want to have those run. So down here, we're going to want to have this also call on fail. And up here, it's also going to want to call on fail. But only if there was an old target. No, we'll leave it. So here in the scan, what we want to do is if we actually complete, here it is, if we actually complete our scan, we're going to want to add in an on succeed. On complete. So the problem is that when we do change the scan target to null, we're going to end up telling it that we failed. On fail gets called there as well. So that's not something we can really do. We want to make sure that it only calls that if we didn't succeed. So what we're going to want to do here is call on fail if there was an old target that hadn't been scanned. So that would be this here. So we have this scanned equals science has been scanned. If not scanned, then on fail.invoke. That way, we know that regardless of what's going on, we failed if we didn't scan it and we're changing targets. Pretty basic, right? So to do that, we'll just pop on down here and we'll add in those new event responses, which are just some sounds. So we got the on fail and the on succeed. We're also going to want to disable these so they don't play on awake, because that would be annoying. So here you can hear that we're still making that sound, even though what we're trying to scan has already been scanned. So we need to put in some logic so that we don't start scanning if we've already scanned it. So there we go. That way we won't get that sound effect when we're just looking at something that we scanned long ago. It has to be something we are now scanning. So that should work out. All we need to do now is turn this back on and hit apply. The problem is that this scanner is pretty mushy. It's actually pretty weak. So what we're going to want to do is increase this max distance. Now the reason it's weak is because I am using a new scanner. All the values have been reset. So we're going to go ahead and up them until they feel more proper. Obviously, we've turned off the scanner. We'll return to the carrier, buy the L1 scanner, and launch again. Now that we have the L1 scanner, we should be able to collect some materials samples. Alright, so what happens is when we're done scanning, we don't stop it. So we're going to want the stop scanning.invoke to happen here when we are done scanning. So there you go. So that it won't continue to make the noise. There we go. That is all I wanted to do today. Not too bad for an hour's worth of work. We implemented a construction system, and we implemented a scanner that doesn't suck quite as bad. Now, that said, the scanner is a little bit too powerful, so we're going to go ahead and pull it back a little bit. Reduce the scan speed. Oh, I forgot to turn it on. There we are. That's better. Now I can really feel it. Now the question is, when we return, are we going to be able to scan those again? This is something that's kind of academic at this point, but I don't think that... I think it's going to be something where I can scan them again. I don't think it survives the scene switch because they are considered individual objects. Oh! They still count... Oh, it's not that they count as scanned, it's that I forgot to turn on our scanner again. I didn't buy it. Yeah, as I thought, they don't, the tracking does not survive a scene switch because the objects change. Alright, that's fun. So I'm back from vacation, and I'll see you folks again on Wednesday and again on Sunday. And if you have any questions, let me know. I'll pay attention to chat for a little bit longer. And I'll see you next week.